Yo, what's going on YouTube? This is Broman Clash right here, and I want to talk about a subject that I've been watching about recently, and a lot of times it's been brought up, and that's the topic of Sonic Recolors, and why Sonic Recolors are just like the Andy Warhol of today's times. I mean, come on, think about it, because you just take a simple portrait or a simple template of a character that already exists, and then you copy and paste your own ways or your own image of your own so-called creativity on it, and that's it. I mean, if you really think about it, Andy Warhol did the same thing too, but he actually took time and effort to actually get the images from hand and actually copy and print them, or ask other people to copy and print them, and then he added his own style to it. So Andy Warhol, he's like the copy and paste master, and all of y'all are just like his little proteges. Some people who do like copy and paste a lot, like in other places, they admit that they copy and paste. But when it comes right down to Sonic Recolors, they actually think it's a work of art. Hey, it's a work of stolen art, but you gotta give it credit. It's still art, nonetheless. Why do I say it's art? Because hey, you just took some paint, you just put it on the canvas, and you just say this is art, and people just get drawn into it. Just like the same thing they did with Andy Warhol, except they're not gonna be not as famous, but they be not famous but infamous. Because you want to know why? Because some of the recolors, like I said before, are just like the Andy Warhol of modern times. You know Andy Warhol, the famous artist that has been known for glamorizing and mainstreaming pop art. And he used like a very well-known thing. He used like, and one of his more famous paintings was actually the Campbell soups. And he actually took like 16, or was it 18, pictures of different Campbell soups and changed the labels up a bit, changed the colors up a bit, show like little variations of it, but yet the original is still there. And they say like if you do like the Andy Warhol method, you're going to get like 1 minute of fame, or like that 1 minute of fame, and that's just it, which is cool and all that stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, sometimes I did trace one bit. I admit that, but it was just out of pure experiment. I prefer to draw my own stuff. But when I look at Sonic Recolors, I just say, "Wow, y'all trying to be like Andy Warhol? Don't be an Andy Warhol, please. People are just gonna remember you as the copy and paste, not the one that took some pace." Now, the thing about Andy Warhol is the fact that he became famous because he was constant in doing it, and I think he did it for shock value. And he did it for like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do, just to signify that he was different. But what Sonic Recolors are doing is basically the same thing. You overpower your character, give it no purpose, which is just like Andy Warhol's kind of paintings. He just did it just for the sake of just doing it. And then you give them all these magnificent powers, but no, really little to no weaknesses. But I think the real sad part is the fact that Sonic Recolors represent the vulnerable side of the Sonic artist, and how the way the Sonic artist feels as if like, hey, if I have an overpowered character, I can actually feel as if I'm powerful myself. But you know what they say? Sometimes a weak character will build themselves up to a strong person. Because sure, everybody starts out weak and vulnerable. Nobody starts out strong. But if you make yourself strong, that's where the foundation lies. If you're born strong, you'll eventually become weak. But if you were born weak and then you make yourself strong through all types of, well, not drugs and all that stuff, but like through effort, time, and value, you realize that, hey, I'm not going to fall as hard enough. I'm not going to fall as hard. And it's just like what not Marcus Garvey, it's just like what Frederick Douglass once said. Instead of trying to repair broken men, we should build up children. You know, making sure that the future is more safe than the ones that are already broken. And I understand the old phrase like, if it ain't broken, why fix it? That's true. But when I look at Sonic Recolors, man, I just say, you know, man, it looks cool. And I was even fooled at one point thinking like, oh crap, that looks like it could be in the Sonic X joint. But, you know, it was fake. And I said, damn. It felt like I given all my hopes up thinking like I could find this one character right then and there in that show. It's basically like false advertisement. That's just it. Stolen false advertisement. And then once you look at it, it's just like, hey man, you know, you're not supposed to do that. You know, if you work on your own character, no matter how bad it gets, see, look, everybody starts out as a novice. That's the thing. Do not be ashamed to say, hey, look, I'm a novice, but I'm working real hard to get to it. That's the beauty of working hard, because eventually the fruits of your labors will cultivate and then it will blossom. And then how's this time with, you know, Sonic Recolors? Because Sonic Recolors, they're just like the easy way to get fame. And then, you know, people call you out. I admit, like, okay, I never did, you know, Sonic Recolors. I'm gonna admit that right then and there. But some aspects I did take from like certain Sonic parts, you know, such as like super transformations. Well, I don't really do that as much as I used to. And then, you know, took some aspects from Legend of Zelda. I did do that. Take some aspects from Spyro. You know, I admit I took some aspects from some of my favorite video game franchises and cultivate them into my characters. But then, you know, as I grew older, I realized like either I have forgotten about them, slowly they're starting to come back, or I just feel like, you know what, man, maybe they don't really need to rely on forms. They just need to rely on themselves. I'm talking about, you know, the characters that I draw. I do have a Deviantart page, by the way. But, you know, aside from that, it's just that when I look at Sonic Recolors and how way they tried to give them like extraordinary stats and all that crap, it kind of makes you think like, why give them an extraordinary origin if you're an ordinary person? The way I see it, I can understand like the occasional, you know, give them powers and all that stuff because of like some source or because it comes from within themselves. They have to discover it themselves, which is cool. But you know, the whole overpowering thing, it gets to be kind of tiring because it's just like, wait a minute, man, because sure, you may make your character immortal, but there are people who kill immortal characters by a simple exploit, by simple research, and also by simple ways of doing things. You know, such as bringing out a potion that dulls out the immortal effects. And you know, it's very funny because not many people really realize this, but Sonic Recolors are also like a bit of a representation of the person themselves. And no, I'm not talking about, you know, like a Kai Dahlia. She at least took effort, you know, to make her character, so I give her some credit right there. But her attitude, definitely, man. Well, she's not as bad now as she was back then. And I was just like, man, thank God I stayed away from her. But, you know, I want to talk about briefly about a particular Sonic Recolor that I know of. Princess Elizabeth. Seriously, your attitude. Man, thank God I am not you. Cause you know, you're I don't know how to describe you, man. Seriously, you need to chill. And your character is an obvious recolor. I mean, it fits the criteria. It takes it as a design from a base. It's like a simple copy and paste. It traces over an image, and then you just recolor the image to your own liking. Some people even joked around stating that she is like the love child of the old Akai and Yoshi We Won. I could see that, which is very funny. Like her character and his like Akai and Yoshi We Won, you know, come together and they just say, "Oh, we gotta get ourselves a daughter. Oh, but wait, I have an accelerated womb, so she'll come out already 17." That's just me. That's just messed up. But you know, but still, you know, Princess Elizabeth, uh, 013. Thank God she's off of Deviantart. I'm not even gonna lie. But seriously, you kind of represent like you and along with a few others represent like the typical quote unquote, as said by IDKY. She said, quote unquote, true artiste. Don't like criticism, but yet wants positive comments. And also, when I look at that, it also makes me think back on when I used to go on Saturday art classes. My art teacher, brilliant guy. He has a bit of a mouth, snide mouth. He'll say some snide comments, but he'll back it up, because of his artwork. He worked hard. I give him credit for that. And then, he mentioned about how the way there was this guy in the community, back then when he was growing up, and he was like he's a pretty damn good artist. And he would mention the fact that, like this guy, he had a lot of people praising him. He never had really people, criticizing his work, telling him like, hey, look, this is what you really need to do. You need to fix this. But other than that, it looks pretty good. That's the thing. He told me about it, but yeah, he also mentioned how the way the guy just felt like, man, what you trying to do? Tell me what to do. Man, the community loves my work. You're the only one that don't love my work. So why should I listen to you? That was just like a few instances, he talks about him. But, sorry for getting sidetracked and, talking about Princess Elizabeth or, the harlot Elizabeth 013. And how does all this tie into Sonic Recolors? Exactly. It ties in with Sonic Recolors because it represents how the artist is really lazy. Not really willing to give effort because they are afraid of being critiqued. Because if they show off their original work, they feel as if like, oh man, these people are just gonna go ham on me. They're gonna really just go drop the dice. And if I get a bad roll, they're gonna say, well, your money, give it up. And that's just it. Talent takes time to cultivate. Skill takes time to cultivate. It doesn't come overnight. It's not like ramen noodles. You can't get it like in 3 minutes. Sure, you may have like brief bursts of inspiration, but other than that, it's not going to work. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience. And if you don't have any of those, especially the willingness to actually be taught and to understand, then you're not going to make it as an artist or anything for that matter. Sure, some people may make it because they cheat, but they usually get caught. Quote unquote, who? Bill Clinton. Want to know if he still has that woman underneath his desk. Probably still looking like this. Hillary, I did not have that woman underneath my desk. I'm telling you the truth, baby. No. Oh, man. But still, Sonic Recolors. I consider them like the Andy Warhol of modern times, man. Seriously. Because Andy Warhol was well known for copy and pasting and producing pop art. Like with everything, something has to come to an end. It's sad, but it's true. The era of pop art has come and gone. Like a mixture between pop and, realism is coming into play, and that's cool. And then looking at it, it's just like this. That's beautiful. But it's just sad that people are not willing to take the effort to take time and just say, hey, look, this is the reason why I'm doing this. I'm doing it because I choose to. And if you're willing to progress, just do it. Do not be afraid of failing. Because if you're afraid to fail, you will eventually just fail and say, you know what, man, fuck it, I quit. And then, funny enough, all jokes aside, I used to be the same way too. In some cases, I used to be something like Princess Elizabeth. But really, I wasn't as bad as her. Not with the whole Sonic Recolor thing, but you know, with her mouth. But I wasn't as bad as her, trust me. But as I look at Princess Elizabeth, look at Sonic Recolors in general, they get the flavor, but they just don't want to accept it. Sonic Recolors, in all honesty, like I said before, it's not only the Andy Warhol method, but it's just like a lazy way to get famous. You may have 1 minute of fame, but you may have like 1,000 hours of criticism coming with it. And you know, criticism is beautiful. I mean, I had to be criticizing on changing up my style because that wasn't on my original style on my Deviantart page, and I'm constantly improving, which is good. With that, I say, hey, look, man. To all of you on YouTube, I say this is Broman Clash saying at one. Hope you have a great day or great evening, depending on which part of the world you live in. And I hope y'all have a good one. Later. It's from Broman himself.